Welcome to the Wise and Happy Life podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern science, and mindfulness, philosophy, and happiness practices blend with neuroscience, compassion, and common sense. Hosted by Bob Martin, meditation mentor, happiness coach, trial lawyer, and entrepreneur. This podcast explores how to live with grace, presence, and purpose in a complex world.
Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Wise and Happy Life. And as you all know, I always like to start off setting a theme and as a way of introduction to a very fantastic guest that we have today. And I just want to tell this a little story. So I have the privilege of being able to teach meditation on college campus, and I get to watch my students change in their perceptions as they go through the semester. And I had this one student, and she just felt so overwhelmed with things that she kept saying, I have to take this exam, and I have these 3 projects to do, and we have to try to get a job, and the job market's just not so good, and I have to look for a job. And I said to her, it seems like a lot of have tos. Maybe you could just say that you get to do these things. Like, I get to take a final exam. I get to do these projects. And something just broke open in her. And I tell you this story because what it really speaks to is how a little change of perception, a little different way of looking at things can really be life-changing. The footnote to that story is I heard about her a couple of years later. She actually sent me a letter and said that moment was transformational for her. And I never expected that. And so our guest today is going to be talking about the changing of perceptions and a whole different way to look at, the problems that confront us in life. And the way I want to start off is reminding, those of us that are old enough to remember the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of those was begin with the end in mind. And so Glen Lubbert is here, and he practices a way of helping people out with something he calls solution-focused work. He's going to tell us about that, and it's really fascinating because I just love the idea of not having to dig so deep into the causes, but really looking at what is the solution and how do we create a future for ourselves. So Glen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and telling us about this solution-focused way of doing things, about focusing on the positive and letting that almost act as an antidote to some of the things that go off in our minds.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Bob. I'm super excited to be here and talk about this subject and really dig into how we can change our perception as you said, and look at the thoughts that we have and the things we tell ourselves or we hear from each other, and be able to ask ourselves better questions around those.
Better questions. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. Because oftentimes we try to look for what went wrong and look at that root cause and try to solve that challenge and issue that we have. And oftentimes the solution can only come out of that problem when we go down that way. But with the solution-focused approach, which is been proven over 30 years of clinical research, and really to effectively make change happen in people's lives, help people make change, help them make change in their lives, not like top down on it. It's just helping them realize the capacity that they have for already in them for change. By the fact that they're actually listening to this podcast right now is evidence of that capacity to change. They're already on the path of being the person they want to be just by listening to this podcast. And that's what we look for is, those evidence of that capacity for change already in our lives, rather than trying to go down that root cause problem. Because when you look at the place you want to be, that begin with the end in mind, that place, and really understand that place with all the fullness of your senses, then your brain is so wily, it'll figure out a way to get there. And the solution may come from a wholly different place than you could possibly imagine than looking at that problem.
I want to go back to something that you said about looking at the capacities.
Yeah.
And what occurred to me is that what you're talking about, and you tell me if I'm right, if I understand it right, is that you're talking about an entirely different kind of listening than the therapist approach. Whereas, you might go into a therapist room and you might sit down and the therapist is listening for little telltale sales about traumas that you may have had and things that you may have had that may be blocking and interfering with your stuff and the like. And what you're saying is that you're not listening for that. You're listening to pinpoint the capacities to check out what capacities, what can we work with. So it's an
Correct.
entirely different way of listening, if I'm hearing
Yeah.
you right.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Bob. That's exactly right. And what you start to look at when you look at yourself that way too. And that's what our goal is with this approach. And when we work with our clients, is for them to start to hear that in themselves. We say you are your own lab. With Stamina Lab is the name of our company. You are your own lab. You are your own experiment, and you are your own best coach because only you know your life really well. So we are not experts in your life. We are experts in our approach. So the solutions that you come up with, the paths to get to your destination or your goals and your dreams they come out of your own life, and it's that capacity that you look for evidence of that capacity. So in any good experiment, you're looking for evidence of things, and you're looking for evidence of the capacity that you have to do it. So let me give you an example.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
so
I think that would
so
help. Hmm?
so when someone, when say we work with a lot of people that are working on their health, and obviously we all want to reduce our sugar because there's so much sugar in our lives. So we have to reduce our A1C numbers sometimes. Is that what lots of clients come to us for? And then, they would be meeting with us, and in between they would say, this is a hypothetical example. Oh, Glenn, I'm sorry. It's really tough. I failed. I screwed up. I'm beating myself up. You have the guilt and the shame because you weren't able to live up to the fact that between last session and this session, we were going to do all the things that, you said we were going to do. I had a half a pint of ice cream this week, and traditionally what they would say is, okay, well, why did you have that half a pint of ice cream? Let's analyze what triggered that and what caused that. So that way, when we know that, we will be able to replace that trigger with a more healthy way of dealing with it. Makes a lot of sense. We've heard this all before. Let's find out what caused that and replace it with something else. Now,
Sure, sure.
the challenge is that, okay, we have that trigger came up, and they say, oh, well, my ex-wife called and we got in an argument about the kids, and I just got all wound up, and so I wanted to have something that made me feel good. Perfectly. You could substitute ice cream with whatever a glass of wine or whatever your thing is, and then so we say, okay, well, let's find something more that would be better to do when your ex-wife calls or that happens. But then something else stresses you out, and something else stresses you out, and something else stresses you out, or whatever the trigger is. And now we're kind of playing whack-a-mole over and over and over again because we're trying to replace all these things that are happening with a new healthy trigger. Or we have to go back and I have to tell you that whole story again about what happened to me, and now I have to relive that pain again and feel bad about myself again because now I'm in the guilt and shame even more. Not only did I have it coming in, but now I feel it even more because I have to tell you all about this whole challenge that I have. All right, so I'm exhausted just thinking about all that we had to go
Yeah,
through there.
right.
So, but here's what would happen. They came to me, Glenn, I had that half a pint of ice cream. Now, that whole thing I just told you, we don't even have to go down there. I would just say to them, okay, well, what kept you from eating the full pint of ice cream? What kept me from eating the full pint of ice cream? Well, I didn't eat the full pint of ice cream because of all the things that you have the capacity to do. Well, I realized that, I want to be healthy. I want to reduce my sugar, and so instead of having the guilt and shame of eating that half a pint of ice cream, I have inside me the resources that I've just identified that kept me from eating that full pint of ice cream. And now I look at that so much differently because now wait a second, I did something here. Yeah, I had half a pint, but I did something. I stopped at a half a pint of ice cream. And now I've identified those and I've said them to myself. We reinforced them. I usually read them right back. And that's the key part of solution focus. We read the exact words that you said right back to you, or we say them right back to you words. And I say, well, now after I say all those things back to you, you just told me 5 things of why you didn't eat that, what kept you from eating that full pint. Now, after I read those 5 things about you back to you, what do you notice about yourself when I say that? Wow, I'm further along than I thought I was. I'm doing better than I thought I was. And that's really the paradigm shift. And we're trying to we're trying to ask those questions over and over, so you start to ask those yourself. So the next time, doesn't matter what the trigger is. Next time something comes up, you have the capacity in you, and you recognize, wait, I was able to stop at a half a pint of ice cream. Maybe this time I stop at 3/4 or whatever, or maybe I don't even do it because I realize, oh, you know what? Actually, I'm working on this, and I've said it over to myself that I can do this. I've done it in the past. And that's like me not saying that the coach is not telling you what you're doing. You've told me what you've already done, and you know it intrinsically inside you. And that's a whole different way of coaching, where we're not coaching from telling you what to do. You're telling us what you've already done and what you have the capacity to do.
Let's do a little role play.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that okay? Are you
Yeah,
good with
sounds
that?
great. Yep.
Okay, great. So, and I'm gonna. This is. I'll be. So I don't know. Would I tell you? Would I even tell you what I think is the cause of this unwanted behavior?
It doesn't matter.
Don't even need.
Doesn't need
Okay,
to.
so I come to you and I say it's about anger.
Yeah.
I get angry and I can't. I feel like I can't control my anger, and it always happens when people just don't have the. I don't work at the same rate that everybody else works at. I work
Yeah.
a little bit slower. I'm trying to be methodical. I try to do everything right, and then what happens is somebody gets upset that the job isn't done yet, and they take it away from me. And when they take it away from me, I just can't. I blow up. I just can't control myself. I wanna kill the people.
Yeah. So, Bob, what do you want to be instead of angry?
What do I want to be instead of being angry? Well, I want to make them understand that the reason that I'm working slowly is because I am being methodical,
Yeah.
and they don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's all speed, speed, speed.
Okay. And even in spite of them not understanding it, uh, what do you want to be instead of angry? This emotion that you said that's overwhelming you. What do you want to be instead?
Well, I don't want to be a patsy.
Okay. But what do you want to be? You don't want to be a patsy. What do you want to be instead?
I want to
Instead
be
of angry.
respected.
You want to be respected. Okay. Yeah. And if you were respected, what difference would that make for you?
Well, if they respected me and I knew that they respected me, uh, then I feel like I could explain why I'm doing what I'm doing more rationally.
Yeah.
So I
And
guess I want to be more rational.
you want to be more rational. Okay. Yeah. And if you were more rational, I ask you one more time, what difference would that make if you were more rational?
Well, I wouldn't have a reputation for being touchy.
Okay, and
And
and I would continue. What difference would that make? What difference would that make? So you start to look at where you want to where you want to go, and then the next question I would ask you is, okay,
well, I
with
just
you,
want to give you. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
if you were respected, and what would you notice you'd be doing if you were being respected? What would you be doing that would tell you that you being respected? What would you be doing?
Well, I'd have to respect them,
Yeah.
and that would mean not blowing up at them. It would. I guess it would mean having a discussion and talking about our work styles
So is
and
there
in a respectful way.
And so, has there been times in the past where you've, whether with your coworkers, with other people in your life, maybe your significant other or your family member, that where you have had that discussion, or been able to um, have a respectful conversation?
Yeah, with my wife, because
Yeah,
just like any couple, we get upset with each other from time to
sure.
time, get frustrated by each other. So we talked about it once, and we came up with the idea that we would just give each other the permission to be annoyed by the other without it being personal. And
Yeah,
so now I can get annoyed at her and she can get annoyed at me, and it doesn't even develop into an argument, and there's no I'm sorry's, because we each gave each other permission to be annoyed at each other.
Yeah. So if you were to want to create that respectful conversation with your colleagues, and knowing what you know you've done in the past, in the next 24 hours, what's one thing you could do, even the smallest thing that you would tell you that you are moving in that direction with your colleagues? Even the smallest thing. What's one thing you could be doing?
Well, they're always, the speed, 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 speed. So they're always fast, fast, fast. So it's really hard to get them to stop long enough to have a conversation. So maybe I could ask them to have a cup of coffee with me, or go to
All right.
lunch, or something like that.
Yeah. So we did a lot of things there in that conversation. And one first thing is I asked you, what do you want instead? And that instead question, and you took a minute to figure that out,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
we don't, because
The
we
stopper.
yeah, because we always know what we don't want. We always like to tell a story where you get into you get into a cab, and you tell the cab driver said you get inside the cab, and the cab driver's like, okay, where do you want to go? I'm like, well, I don't want to go over there because I can't remember what you exact said, but you said I don't want to go there because I don't want to be a patsy, and I don't want to be disrespected, and I don't want to be. Okay, the cab driver's like, okay, that's fine, but I got to drive you somewhere. So where do you want to go? And so that's like the instead question. You have to tell the driver where you want to go. And so, and you're also the cab driver in this
Right,
story.
right, right.
But like, what do you want instead? And be as clear as you can. What would you be doing differently? What would you notice you'd be doing? What would other people? Sometimes that's hard to say. Is like, what would you be doing? Sometimes that's hard. So maybe you have to say, well, what would your colleagues notice you be doing, or what would your wife notice you be doing, or your kids, or sometimes we even say, what would your pet know you be doing differently? Because pets, some pet owners too. What would your pets know you do differently? If I wasn't coming home angry, your pet might notice. You come and pet them. Right when you walked in the door. So what would you notice you'd be doing differently? So instead, so you can understand that. And then the other key part is, I asked multiple times, what difference will that make? And what difference will that make? Because that makes it really deep, intrinsic inside you, because it's really connected to your values. And when you connect it to your values, that's really your internal compass. And when we get angry or frustrated, we're moving outside of our value range. So by really being really clear where the cab driver wants to go, that's the instead question, and then asking what difference will it make multiple times, we're going to eventually get to happiness and love and joy if we ask it enough times, that same question. But really, that really helps connect it to your whatever the happiness, joy, values, whatever your values are. That connects to that. So when you are in that situation, now you felt it to your value core that, oh no, actually I want to. You have to have a direction. If the brain doesn't know where to go, it's just going to
Right.
keep getting in that frustrated. So you have to tell the cab driver where to go and paint that picture in the most vivid details. So that's one thing we
Wait, let
can.
me let
Yeah,
me let me tell you two things about what happened to me during that.
yeah,
Okay. So one thing is, when you asked me that question, because you asked it twice and it stopped me both times, because it was, for me, it just wasn't an expected question. And my mind just went blank. Like, I had to really think about that.
and we don't get
So
this question asked a lot. That's why it
no,
happens.
we
Yeah,
don't. We don't. That's one thing. The other thing is that when I thought about this role play, I was thinking, like, what would I have to do with? So, just as an aside, the reason that I came up with this is because my dad was Eastern European, and he was very, very, very conscious about the job being done right, and that your pat on the back that you would normally get should be you should give it to yourself when you've done the job right. And so if I was washing the dishes and he didn't think I was doing it right, he would take the job away from me.
yeah. And you said, Bob, right there was something what you said similar to the intro. Is there was several shoulds in there? Is it similar to the intro
Right.
you gave that you're saying? So we're trying to get ourselves out of these uh, programming that we have inside us, and trying to go back and try to solve that. Your dad said this or whatever those things. Yeah, that's digging up a lot
Yeah,
pieces.
but
So
let
that's
me
why
let
asking
me
you
tell you
instead is
let me
easy. Yeah,
let me tell you one more thing about that. When we started this, I honestly felt that we couldn't do the role play unless you had that information, that you had to have that information. And it turned out you did not need that information at all.
Yeah.
And that, coming from a master's in social work and, some therapeutic type of training, that just really surprised me that you got there without knowing that, which was, that was just eye opening for me.
Yeah, and this approach is not only is it do I not need to do this, and that which makes this one, it's effective. It's much more joyful because we didn't have to go down that, and two,
Right.
it's so precision that we can get things done faster. We get to action faster, and that's really the other thing that I was trying to get to you is to what would you be doing, and or what would you be noticing you be doing, because whenever we're in an emotion that is a struggling emotion, or we're in a behavior that is not what that's being helping us, we have to get into a doing. We have to get into a doing, and we have to the doing. We need to know what direction we're going to go in the doing, which is where we have to tell the cab driver what we're going to get, what we're going to be doing. And sometimes the doing sounds so large that we have to just break it down to what would we be doing in the next hour that would tell
Right.
us that we
Right.
are going to
Right.
be,
Right. Right.
and even the smallest thing that would just tell us we're moving in that direction, looking for evidence again that we have the capacity to move in that direction.
Yeah, and you talk about evidence because in your firm you have scientifically oriented people. You got a PhD and some other folks who take that approach. And evidence is, well, being a trial lawyer, I'll tell you, evidence is something that's important to me too. So I think I mean, having evidence, and you call it of capacities, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Eh, you know,
exactly.
seeing, and I love the idea that the person is the person is really telling you what the solution is.
Yeah, exactly. Because I wouldn't, if I don't have to diagnose all these problems and try to come up with all things, because I don't know your life, Bob. We haven't met. We've been talking for 20 minutes, so
Right?
so you have to come up with that you where you've had this opportunity to do it with your wife and how you've solved that, and that you have to tell me what you want to be instead. You want to be respected and what that would look like. So I would be guessing
Yeah,
otherwise.
yeah, no, no, sure, sure, sure. I understand. And this is a lot less nerve wracking. A lot. This is I don't know about the word easy, if that's the right word, but smooth maybe would be a better word.
Yes, it's simple but not easy is what we like to say. It's simple but not easy, because there's, we're looking. We know that there's just a few questions that we're going to ask, and even with my partner and I, we have our own individual challenges, and even if you know the framework yourself, it sometimes just helps to have someone to ask you the same questions
Oh
back
yeah,
to you. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like you can't edit your own work.
yeah, exactly. But you can get better at it. You can get better at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's what
Unless,
I think. Yeah.
yeah, unless you're an artist. I had an artist friend, and he would tell me that whenever he paints either watercolors or oils, and he said every single stroke is an experiment. And the problem is that whenever I walk into a room and see one of my pieces of work, all I ever see are the mistakes. Yeah. So if you're an artist, it may be different,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
visual, it might be different.
Yeah, but
So
we're the artists of our own lives, so and then
yeah.
we do
Oh,
have
I
a
love that.
negative we have a negativity bias, because that's what's kept us alive evolutionary when the lion was chasing us. So that's what we're trying to counteract with this approach, is that of course we're going to go to the negative. That's what kept us alive. We want to do the root cause of let's solve it. That's what kept us alive. So what we're trying to do with this approach is to go against our programming almost, and so we have to really practice it. And like I said, it's simple but not easy, because that's our default to go to
Hmm.
that negativity bias.
Negative.
Yeah.
And that negativity bias, that's worth, let's chat about that a little bit, because I think it's very important that people understand it and the why of it and how to counter it. My understanding is that since our survival instinct is way more strong and more powerful than our instinct to want to see beautiful things, because it needs to keep us alive and keep us safe, so it has to be one of the strongest impulses that we have. We are biased towards anything that can be threatening. That will take our attention first. We'll put priority on it. Only when those things are satisfied do we have the ability to pay attention to, and so we generally don't learn to intentionally bring beauty and awe and connection into our lives in an intentional way. And the
Yeah.
brain science is now showing that if you take a scan and you see more electrical activity in the right side, you can predict that the person is negative, pessimistic, judgmental, all of those things. And if there's more electricity on the left side, you can predict that they'll be optimistic, connected, spiritual, and those things. So, what you're saying is since there's a bias over here on the right side, um, let's not try to fight it. Let's just build up the left side.
Yeah, and we're, it's overwhelming and evolutionarily not caught up to where we are. We are safe for the most part. We are safe.
Right.
So, but our ancient brain and nervous system is still looking out for threats of death, and so we. Everyone's okay. That this is normal and natural to be constantly thinking these thoughts. Our brain just does what the brain does, and it'll have tons of thoughts. We don't have to think. We don't have to believe them. They all come through. That's one thing that is really helpful to remember, that they just happen. And the opportunity that we have is whenever we notice, and it's always in the noticing. Whenever we notice that we are thinking a pattern that is not helpful, is to ask what do we want instead. What do you want instead? And that's really the first thing is the noticing. And in the meditation, I know that's where your world you're living in is the meditation world. Is welcome back or welcome home. Every time you notice that you have been thinking this, and then, well, what do I want instead?
Mm-hmm. I came up with I'm going to do a little word quiz with you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I came up with this acronym. It just so happens that I have to give a talk in a spiritual setting and a Christian church. And I came up with this acronym to give the talk on. And I'd like to throw it out to you word by word and give me your thoughts on the word. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And the acronym is GRACE,
Yeah.
GRACE. The G is for gratitude and generosity.
Okay.
Your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Gratitude and generosity. Yeah. So, yeah, anytime you are thinking of gratitude and generosity, you are putting yourself in a state where you're looking at things from a capacity for things that you're doing and for hope of where you want to go. And that's, I think, the two big pillars of this is, the gratitude is that, there are things that I'm happy about and that I'm grateful for, and that's the capacity that we have. That's what we want to continue
Mm-hmm.
to look for. And then the you know the hope that we want to give out to the world.
And the generosity
The
builds
generosity, I
on
mean. Yeah.
the capacity to not see ourselves as victims or poor and the like, but to see ourselves in abundance, which again is a capacity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, um, R for reflection.
Reflection. So, hmm, reflection. I like this one. And the reflection, I would say it more in the noticing, where I would put it into a solution focused approach is, we if we reflect on the past, then it's looking for evidence of when things that we're doing, that we're already doing, even in the smallest way, that's telling us that we're on the path to where we want to be. And obviously we want to always define that, but the reflection, yeah, you can reflect on some sad things or things that are not, but and that's it's therapeutic and helpful. Even if you go to a therapist and you talk for
Well,
an
but
hour.
how about you're reflecting on your capacities and
Correct.
reflecting on your capacities and your progress, that something good happens, and then you reflect on that and say, well, that's pretty good.
100%. And that's where I would say you would want to spend the majority of your reflection time. I also don't want to discount that there is value in reflecting on things that were painful for you or that you struggled with. And there is definitely value in that expunging that, or putting it on a piece of paper, or talking to someone about it. But at the end of the day, even if you do that, you still have to say, okay, now where do you want to go instead? Where do you want to do after that? And you could, even when you go to if you do a therapy work and you talk to a therapist for an hour, you feel good getting it all off your chest. At the same time, it's, where do I want to go? What difference that's going to make? And then when I reflect back, where's things that I've done, even in the smallest way, that shows that I'm actually doing that, or I'm on the path to doing that.
Right. Good. The A is right there with it, awareness.
Yeah, well, the awareness is that's everything. Everything, awareness is everything. Is the noticing is what we call it, and it's the mindfulness. It's many different words, but it's just being and just noticing, not only when you're thinking in a pattern that's not working for you and you're having a behavior that you don't want to have. It's that noticing. It's noticing the capacity that you have in the past where you've done things. It's noticing and being aware of where you want to go and what that will look like and what difference will that make.
The C is for compassion.
Well,
For self and others.
yeah, I would say that's the first thing I would say is be kind to yourself. This change is hard, and that's why we want to look for evidence constantly of where we are on the path to change, and to be kind to ourselves. That, okay, like I said, with that half a pint of ice cream example, is you could beat yourself up with the guilt and shame. But at the same time, when I ask, what kept you from eating that's where you can be kind to yourself. Be like, okay, I did do that. At the same time, I also only ate the half a pint because of this, this, and this, and this.
Mm-hmm. And finally, the E is for engagement.
Well, engagement is always about the doing, and the doing. You have to get into the doing. If you are stuck in the ruminating in the past, or anxiety and stress about the future, the way to get beyond that is in the doing, engaging in the world in the direction that's in service of your values.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking too. You just made my presentation for me.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, clip out all that and
Yeah,
transcript
right.
that out for you.
So I have one more question for you. Let's say smoking. Okay, so here's somebody smokes, and you ask them, why do you smoke? And they say, I smoke because I like it. It makes me feel good. I get energy from it. I like the feeling of the smoke going down my throat, blah, 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 blah. I like it. I smoke because I like doing it. And then you ask them the next question. You say, do you like that you smoke? And almost invariably, people would say, no, I don't like that I smoke, but I like doing it. So why do you think people continue to do what they don't like that they do?
I think that they maybe have not asked what they want instead.
Oh,
Is
yeah, right,
what they
right,
want
right.
instead. But well, let me give you a story. We work with a faith-based organization, and for lots of people, their clergy or their pastor or whoever's the head of the faith organization is their person that they go to for their mental health or their directions, obviously, in life. And so they came into us and said, we have a big problem with, lots of people in our clergy or in our group smoke cigarettes. They smoke a lot of cigarettes, and we don't know what to do. And they just can't stop. It's just too much. And so we asked, okay, well, do they smoke during service? Well, of course they don't smoke during service. And then we asked, well, did they smoke in a movie theater? Well, no, they don't do that in the movie theater or on an airplane. So we pulled up all these times where they weren't smoking, and so we showed capacity that they had for doing. So what did they notice about themselves when they're in those situations? And that's where we pull out some of those. Where the capacity is, and then obviously the question you have to always know where the cab driver has to take you is, what do you want to do instead? What difference will that make? And obviously, and paint that full picture. And there's what's one thing you could do, even the smallest thing that would show you that you were. And then I would be, maybe I would get some gum. I don't know what all the ways to get off smoking are, but they would come up with it. Oh, maybe I would buy one less pack, and same thing. I had a friend who has been gone in rehab multiple times, and people obviously get frustrated in that. And I kept saying to him, I'm like, well, you keep trying, you keep going back to rehab, you keep trying. And he's like, "Oh, thank you for saying that. No one else is acknowledging that I'm keeping going back and trying." That's the capacity that you're still trying to solve this, and being, the compassion of being kind to yourself, that, hey, I'm still trying to do this. I had I had a pack of cigarettes. Well, what kept you eating from buying the second pack? Again, looking for
Couldn't
those.
couldn't couldn't that whole process kind of turn into a game where the person is playing it for the purpose of not stopping? Well, no, if you keep no, yeah, they might start out. I'm just thinking they might start out that way, looking like the guy in rehab, right? So it kind of gives him excuse to be able to go back and relapse because he keeps trying to go to, and somebody's affirming that he's doing okay because he's going to rehab. So he comes into it thinking that it's a game, but over time, the questions are going to dig into his psyche.
Well,
They
also,
will dig
well,
into
what
his psyche.
you have to also complement with, what do you want instead, and so that they know that and
Uh,
paint that full picture. And also, you have to you also look at um, that they're coming up with those steps that they're going to be doing. And that's where there's the difference is when you're in that power imbalance, when you're telling them, okay, you should, okay, next step is you should, next step is this, next step is this, okay, next step, okay. When you do that, that cracks the door open, where they're in the mind so wily, and it'll say, Bob, that was Glen's idea, not your idea. So that doesn't count, because he came up with that. But now, if you came
right,
up with
right,
it, Bob, you said that I'm going to do this and that. That's you. That you're the one that is in. You're only in arguing with your self there. So it's putting those. We're trying to connect neural pathways in our brain. We get to the neuroscience. We're trying to connect neural pathways in our brain, and each time we create the pathway we want, it creates a little bit strong. It gets a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger. They never go away. So even if you go away from it or fall off the horse for whatever time, that pathway is still there, ready for you to pick up whenever you want. You're just trying to make it stronger and stronger, and that's why this works for sustainable behavior change, because the person that you're doing and the person that you're saying you're doing are in conflict, and it's only with yourself. And the one that you keep um, feeding even just a little bit, even the smallest bit, and looking for evidence that you're still feeding it, so you don't ever actually fall off the horse completely. Because, okay, well, what kept you from doing it even worse? Oh wait, actually, so I never fell off the horse. I just didn't do it even worse.
right, right. Back. I don't know if it's still around, but there was a strong push for something called motivational interviewing,
Yeah.
where somebody comes to you and like they have usually used in addiction situation. I don't want to stop. I like my heroin, and although the other day I just almost killed myself, I did pull the gun out and I cocked it, but I put it back. And then the question is, well, tell me, all about how this affects you negatively, and they are very free and sharing that. And then finally, you flip it around and say, well, you know what I think that you understand all the negative aspects, you understand the positive aspects, you made a decision. I think you should stop trying to stop. And then the person goes, what are you, nuts? Are you crazy? Are you trying to kill me? If you did that, I would be blah, 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 blah. If that would kill me, and that would this. And right there, you're looking at building capacities as well, right?
Well, there's a key difference,
But
and
it's a different way.
we
Yeah.
can okay. So and we compare to solution focus with motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapy. We're getting really deep into addiction, but there's three different areas, like, where people who are practitioners in these do have two different things, where they hear the client's words and they either keep them, they either delete them, or they change them. And solution focus, whatever words they do, we keep them. Those
Keep that.
we're keeping the words that they say that show that they have the capacity, that they're on the path to change. In motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapy, there's a those words are excluded, that we don't keep those words. Instead, we change those words, we reframe those words, we paraphrase those words. And when you change or paraphrase those words, again, it gives that the mind a little bit out and say, those aren't my exact words. Those are their words. And it changes again the power dynamic, and it says, oh, those are their words. And the brain's wily, and it'll figure a way to say that those words. So it's the paraphrasing and the keeping of the words that is the big difference.
It's a fascinating conversation, how wily the mind is. So, Glenn, tell us about Stamina Labs and how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in this approach.
Yeah, if you want to visit staminalab.io, we have some great assessments you can take that get you on the path to learning about solution focused, stress assessment, mindful eating, the different ones that you can look at to get you on there. We also have a fantastic YouTube channel where my partner, Dr. Deborah Teplow, and I talk about solution focused questions that you can ask yourself, and applying on the lens on different things, from self-talk to resilience to sleep to mindful eating, stress management. We change the lens on the same thing, but it's the approach is the same. What do you want instead, and what difference will it make? Yeah, so staminalab.io.
What you're saying is you got enough stuff out there where if this is interesting, somebody can get on there and start down the pathway. And then you're available, of course, if they come to a fork or something else, a little question here and there, you're all available for a consult, right?
Yeah, we do monthly quests that they're called.
Oh.
And so you can take a 2-week quest with us, which, like I said, right now we're in the middle of a self-talk quest where we apply solution focus to your self-talk. We have setting boundaries in the holidays coming up. So you can use a solution focused approach to set boundaries, which is similar to what you were asking when we did our role play, Bob, is, how do I set boundaries appropriately, and what do I want? So I have to know what I want instead, and how I can set those boundaries. And you came up with, you're going to set up a coffee to do that. So that's one of the quests like that. So we have those quests every month, so you can join one of those, and
sounds great,
with a group of other people, and really have fun learning about this approach.
Well, Glenn, I just, want to thank you on behalf of myself for coming on the show, but more on behalf of the listeners, that they have some options, to go and check some of this stuff out, and take it a little bit at a time. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's a gift that you've given. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Bob. This is fun.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, check out the website. Check out some of the assessments that are there. Take a look at it. Take a look at yourself. Be aware. Be reflective. Be generous. Be compassionate. And engage. And we'll see you the next time around.